You know, the equipment needed for carping is really pretty simple. And if you fish for bass, for trout, or better yet, light-duty saltwater, you probably have most of the equipment that you need. But there are a few things worth mentioning. First of all, people always ask, what size rod do we use for this? And really, I try to match my rod, first of all, to the size of fish, and secondly, to the size of the water that we're fishing. Really a no-brainer there. I'll typically find myself with a 5-weight, for example, in streams, and maybe an 8-weight or a 9-weight in larger lakes. I'll typically find myself with an 8.5 or a 9-foot 6 or 7-weight. In fact, my favorite carping rod is also my favorite red fishing rod. A floating line is really all you're going to need for this, and my favorite are the bass bug type taper lines. Although I do hear people talk about fishing double tapers and triangle tapers, especially for fishing on the surface and when the fish tend to be really spooky. We've also been toying around with these clear intermediate lines, and also will from time to time fish sink tips or mini tips, especially when fishing crayfish in streams. One thing that all of the carpers that we fish with have stressed is the use of fluorocarbon for their tippets. Fluorocarbon offers greater stealth, strength, and abrasion resistance, all of which are very important to carpers. This stuff has really made a difference in the number of hookups that I get since I made the switch, or should I say the investment. But fluorocarbon really does seem to help. My most important piece of gear, though, is my hat and my polarized sunglasses. Very, very important. In fact, I couldn't go carping without them. I just can't stress the importance of good polarized sunglasses enough. There really is a difference. Once you've identified some catchable fish, you need to get the right fly to them in the right manner. Now we'll talk about flies in just a minute, but getting the fly to them can be a whole different story. Now again, to keep things simple, I think that carping can be broken down into two basic, simple presentations. The first presentation, or essentially the first cast, is to lead the fish far enough ahead to where you don't spook him or others in the area. And you also want to overshoot the fish and allow the fly to sink. Then when he approaches, you retrieve the fly naturally. This is super effective when you're fishing flies like crayfish or damsels and dragons. The second presentation is really simple. You cast the fly directly in the fish's line of travel and really within a few feet of his nose. This is really effective when fishing flies like the mulberries or the grasshoppers. You kind of overshoot them and allow maybe the fly to sink a little bit and then bring it up and past them. And you made the comment that carp really like to see that come up and off the bottom.
Yeah, when it comes off the bottom, they're very secure that it's food. You know?
That makes sense.
But if you cast real close to them and kind of sinks down, two things may happen just in my experience, and that is one, you can scare them, you know, because they're really spooky. The next thing is that if it comes right down on top of them like that, you know, that somehow or other the noise or the fly coming real close to them may spook them and they're gone. So I prefer to put it a little bit further away from them, just out of caution, because there isn't any fish that hears better, there isn't any fish that sees better or smells better than a carp. They actually have 3 ways of hearing. And so they have an inner ear, a lateral line, and a wiggling device in their swim bladder that detects vibrations. And that, as I tell my fly fishing students a lot of times, that the one thing you don't want to do is alter a fish's appetite, make them not want to eat. And so if you scare them, they quit wanting to feed. So.
Jim, you've been fishing for carp for well over 20 years. What's some of the best advice you can give people chasing carp?
Be quiet.
Yeah.
Biggest thing, try not to, in a lake or a pond, try not to make waves if you're in a boat. Just let the boat drift into the area. On a river, don't even get in, don't even wade, walk the bank, spot your fish first, and then set up your attack, so to speak, and go to it from there. But they are so spooky, just the slightest ripple can put them on guard.
Yes.
You know, get in position very quietly. You know, you want minimum number of false casts. You have to cast very accurately. You have to lay the fly down gently. You know, so there's a lot of factors involved in successfully catching these fish. And like you made the comparison before, it's, you know, redfish and bonefish. It's the same deal, only, you know, we're doing it in inland, inland Midwestern streams in the middle of summer.
Yeah. If you're not quick enough, you're not close enough with your cast, that's what happens. Golly, but it sure is exciting. You feel that initial tug and there's a carp in the area. Pheasant tails will work. In fact, one of our favorites is this soft hackle pheasant tail that we call a trophy nymph. I have to tell you that my favorite carp fly of all time is Jim Andrix's little bugger. You originally created this to be a tadpole imitation? Or?
Right, tied it in black with just a little bit of lead wire to counteract the flotation of the material.